draft is on its way. Or maybe that was a coincidence. Who knows?
And hey, Blue, what is going on over there?
Oh right, sorry, my brother is talking. Hang on. Sorry about that. Let me...
All right. Well, hey, as we get this tournament underway, quarterfinals time of the Plus Weekly Tournament number 33. Tsubaki-chan, Doyko not messing around. We got an immediate ban on the 𝗂𝗶𝗆 here.
The 𝗂𝗶𝗆 ban, well, yeah, obviously running 3 Tems that could potentially be a threat to it. Although there is a Volerant, maybe just there's a Volerant and the two Vines, so maybe just getting rid of the only toxic Tem in the game. For the most part, of course, Volerant is also a toxic Tem, but it's not really. You don't really remember that's a toxic Tem more than it just has a lot of resistances, really. But yeah, besides that, 𝗧𝗵𝗵 does still get banned nonetheless here. Doyko could run the 𝗂𝗚 or Kinu, but it's not like Tsubaki is new to that kind of opening. So Doyko thinks otherwise, picks up the Volerant instead. Very secure, very safe opening. Of course, very hard to counter opening with a Volerant.
Yeah, perhaps Tsubaki thinking about picking up a Volerant of his own, and I think he's leaning towards it. What does he want to pair it though? 𝗏𝗏 feels a bit risky knowing that Doyko has that Fire Fish, so does keep that Volerant to his name. What does he also want? Oh, no mental Temtems. He goes for the Size Munch. Since the 𝗧𝗵𝗵 has already been taken care of with the ban. So really good start for Tsubaki. I love the Size Munch. We have yet to see opening Size Munch this tournament. So what does Tsubaki have in store?
Absolutely. Size Munch opening here, of course, only 𝗬𝗚 being the only partner here. Maybe setting up a ban bait, maybe Tsubaki-chan here, banning 𝗬𝗚 just to get that synergy out of the way, potentially. Doyko might not even be thinking about that, potentially. Playing your own game also could obviously work here. There's still the Kinu. I wouldn't say a 𝗂𝗚 pickup here would be my favorite choice, mainly because Heat Up will just outscale you. Of course, 𝗂𝗚 is tankier, but the Size Munch will just get there faster, if that makes any sense. So yeah, that sort of trade may eventually favor Tsubaki.
Exactly. So excellent pickup for Doyko, but it comes at a bit of a cost too. So you got the perfect water cannon staring down the Size Munch, so it's not a free heat up. However, you want to be careful because Tsubaki has those Noxious Bomb looking at that 𝗂𝗀𝗆's face. So we'll see who ends up getting the better in that opener, because we all know it tends to be more of a momentum game. Not exactly as we saw from Doyko and 𝗂𝗏𝗆's matchup earlier, but sometimes that early advantage does end up really snowballing it through.
Getting rid of the 𝗂𝗚 there, of course, a little bit of a given, considering that there was still the 𝗏𝗏𝗆, well, rather, it's only the 𝗏𝗏𝗆 really to do mental damage against the 𝗂𝗚, so it was understandable to get rid of that the 𝗂𝗚, right? In fears of if 𝗏𝗏𝗆 got banned, then suddenly you are stuck in a nightmare situation. So, understandably so, 𝗬𝗚 picked up for both players. Of course, not as potent at its peak days.
But
they will definitely do it. They will definitely do their best. Mostly synergy bonus for Tsubaki-chan. I'm not sure what Doyko is going to be able to do with the 𝗬𝗚. I don't see a very strong counter, or just some like I'm not really sure where the 𝗬𝗚 is going to go here. Maybe just to do some raw damage, but we'll have to see on that regard. But Doyko picks up the 2-Vine and the Kinu, so looking a little bit classic. No direct super carry, but of course, enough chip damage will eventually bring it down. The 𝗂𝗀𝗆, if it gets a solid opening, will be on its way. And 𝗏𝗏 for the final pickup for Tsubaki. Double carry versus just a very straightforward and linear team here for Doyko. We'll see who takes it in game 1.
That is right, as we get into the quarterfinals here of this weekly series. So 𝗧𝗵𝗃 and 𝗂𝗺𝗏 representing the side of Tsubaki, and Doyko with his 𝗂𝗺𝗏 and that Fire 𝗂𝗽. Who's going to get the better of each other early on? It's definitely a bit tough to tell. Of course, the 𝗂𝗺𝗏s could gun down each other. The 𝗂𝗺𝗏 could gun down each other's partner Temtem. Of course, something like a noxious bomb if the 𝗂𝗽 wants to stay in for the water cannon on the 𝗧𝗵𝗃. And Doyko could, of course, try to double in water cannon plus a feather gatling. That's going to do a significant amount of damage onto the 𝗧𝗵𝗃. So a couple lines of play. But one thing that is certain is 𝗧𝗵𝗃 is not a free heat up at all. This is definitely getting pressured out. If anything, maybe something like a 𝗧𝗍𝗺 swap, try to eat the water cannon, and then you're kind of thrown out from the 𝗧𝗺𝗺 next turn. So everything stays in though.
Yeah, very brave play here for Tsubaki-chan. Will be going in for that heat up potentially. Water cannon will be synergy bonus as well, just to incredibly punish the 𝗧𝗵𝗃. Down to 32%, uppercut thrown down as well. Just trying to do as much damage as possible. FG to follow would kill the 𝗧𝗵𝗃, and in fact it does. Secures the body bag there for the side of Doyko. Already one Tem up completely. But Tsubaki-chan, remember, he picked up this 𝗏𝗏 for a reason. He still has a secondary carry, so Gambits for just a lot of damage.
Yeah, and we saw the double up not paying off. Fortunately, Tsubaki did not elect to go with the heat up there, so did get a bit of damage on the 𝗂𝗺𝗏, rightfully so. But man, that water cannon, and you know what, Blue? He didn't even need that additional toxic tick. The feather gatling was actually enough.
Yeah, absolutely. The double up instantly killing the 𝗧𝗵𝗃 there. Tsubaki may be playing for the 𝗏𝗏 carry. Of course, classic Tsubaki could be playing for the sort of tank carry. But as you can see, that 𝗂𝗺𝗏 is aerobic. So definitely has more shotguns in this arsenal than usually we see Tsubaki run, I'll be honest, right? Usually
where's the Golders or the Sakus, of course.
Yeah, where's the Golders? Exactly. Where's the Nagas, right? So absolutely more power to this team than often wise. But again, Doyko still being up a Tem doesn't really feel that fantastic. Again, with that brooch, the doppelganger brooch still available, Doyko might be losing 𝗂𝗺𝗏 pretty much this turn, if he is not careful here. So it does swap out.
Yeah, indeed, swaps out into the Kinu, so buffing up this Fire 𝗂𝗽, and if that 𝗧𝗍𝗺 stay in, a 𝗧𝗏𝗺 could be coming its way, but HK is trying to do some damage, so 100 all the way down to a little bit above 50, but wait a minute, this 𝗧𝗍𝗺 might be taking a big amount of damage if it does not close it out on this 𝗂𝗽. 53, no, neutral damage is not enough.
𝗧𝗏𝗺 throw down will do a lot of damage. 60% trade favors Doyko there, at least still being a Tem up. But remember, being a Tem up doesn't necessarily help if they're low. They're basically a dead man walking at that point. So right now Doyko is low on that 𝗂𝗽, and he will not outscale this 𝗂𝗺𝗏. This 𝗂𝗺𝗏 is now 100% fast enough to FG the 𝗂𝗽. It has to leave. If anything, 2-Vine swap in is potentially going to follow through. The 𝗧𝗍𝗺 right now has revitalized, so it's actually probably the safest position to be the 𝗧𝗍𝗺 right now. The 𝗂𝗽 really can't stay in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see the game plan from Tsubaki last turn was thinking the 𝗂𝗺𝗏 maybe stayed in, was not anticipating the Kinu. So without the Kinu buff there, I dare say that double up there would have killed the 𝗂𝗽. But with the Kinu buff, adding that additional 50% on both of those physical attacks, or reducing 50% of those, does indeed live. So what does he have in store now? We saw 𝗧𝗏𝗺 without the neutral synergy. That went last, so 𝗧𝗍𝗺 with another WCL will be able to close it out on the 𝗂𝗽. So what does Doyko want to do? How is he going to beat the 𝗧𝗍𝗺 without the 𝗧𝗏𝗃? We did see here, it is a settling 𝗧𝗍𝗺, so I guess the physical damage from 𝗬𝗚lus and 2-Vine will end up being pretty impactful throughout this match.
Yeah, absolutely. There's still the 𝗂𝗺𝗏, there's still the 𝗂𝗽. Again, being a Tem up doesn't really help. Tsubaki gambited the 𝗧𝗵𝗃 for basically putting the 𝗂𝗺𝗏 out of commission. We'll still have to see if that does become the case. But the 𝗏𝗏 we've yet to see as well. And I dare say 𝗏𝗏 could probably shred Doyko's team here in a blink of an eye if it does get that Madness buff off. So you can never really look away from that 𝗏𝗏. If you're not careful, you will be losing quite a lot here. So,
yeah, absolutely. Just has to find that sweet spot to try to get that Madness buff, because a lot of physical pressure that goes around that Madness buff is on Doyko's team. So out comes the 𝗬𝗏, maybe trying to eat that Noxious Bomb WCL. It is high defenses, so no 𝗧𝗏𝗺 retreats for the time being. And out comes the 𝗬𝗧𝗏, so beautiful read for Tsubaki. You will have that hook kick online looking at the 𝗬𝗏.
Yeah, chamomile as well. Toxic Plume, very solid. Of course, attack down doesn't really matter here. Determined trait protects the 𝗬𝗏 completely. Beta Burst to follow through does a solid amount of damage. The special defense is slowly tanking here for the 𝗏𝗏. Now, also out of stamina means he's probably have to swap out. 𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗏, he can actually do a lot of damage. Crystal Bite into that 𝗬𝗏 spot, and there is no swap in that feels good. There really isn't.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I mean, you do, as we said, the hook kick into 𝗬𝗏, but yeah, the crystal bite into the 𝗬𝗏 spot as well. That's 100% kill. The 𝗬𝗏 will live a hook kick at 80%, I want to say. But 𝗬𝗏, that is a different story. And if you swap into 𝗏𝗏, that goes down. So it almost feels like it has to be a 𝗬𝗏𝗏 swap there. Because if 𝗏𝗏... Let's take a look. So obviously Tornado's online for 𝗬𝗏, -2 special defense. Maybe the Tornado does more than something like a Feather Gatling CPG. But as you said, Blue, 𝗏𝗏 does not want to stay in here. So what can he do? Maybe 𝗏𝗏,
Sure.
so you get a Crystal Spike the next turn. You know, hook kick and then Crystal Spike. Let's take a look. Oh, it's the 𝗧𝗏𝗺.
Goes into the 𝗧𝗏𝗺. Yeah, absolutely. Swapping in that 𝗧𝗏𝗺, of course, still has revitalized. The 𝗬𝗏 is forced to swap out. Most likely the 𝗬𝗏𝗏 here to take that Crystal Bite if it were to follow through. The 𝗧𝗏𝗺 also incredibly useful for revitalize as well. So CPG comes out, will shoot down the 𝗧𝗏𝗺. Fortunately, defenses are solid, so it stabilizes. Hook kick now available, of course, but I understand why Tsubaki ignores the 𝗬𝗏 here. From even with a hook kick, you want to make sure that the 𝗬𝗏 is pressured out, and also whatever swaps in takes a lot of damage. And for the most part, the 𝗬𝗏 it's the special defense betrays the 𝗬𝗏, right? And and you still have the 𝗏𝗏, you still have the 𝗏𝗏 to do the special attack damage. And if you hook kicked into it, you'd be doing damage, but again, the pressure wouldn't be there for the other side. So just closing in on the 𝗬𝗏𝗏's damage. The 𝗬𝗏 will be swapped out here, most likely for the 𝗬𝗏. And in fact, it is. So, coming in here to protect the 𝗬𝗏𝗏s, of course, will try and keep him alive. Most likely will, actually, unless the sharp stabs follow through. And in fact, it will get picked off here. And sharp stabs should be traded here for the 𝗬𝗏𝗏s, but he hook kicks into the opposing force here of Doyko. So, Tsubaki is losing that 𝗧𝗏𝗺, but again, the damage is devastating now, and it's not like 𝗬𝗏 can safely revitalize here. We might be seeing the 𝗏𝗏 soon, but 𝗏𝗏 will be coming in first. So just pumping out as much damage as possible. Again, if these Tems are all red, 𝗏𝗏 is gonna have a field day.
Yeah, so that's what we're seeing most of these high-level players do. They kind of save for the 𝗏𝗏 towards the end, where most of these Tems are about in that one-hit range. And as you said, 𝗏𝗏 gonna have a play day if he finds himself in that board state. Because so far, we're kind of leaning towards their Tsubaki-chan down 2 Temtems compared to Doyko's full roster. However, the HP differential, we're seeing it here. 𝗏𝗏 at 33, 𝗂𝘀𝗶𝗆 at 21, and 𝗬𝗏𝗏s about the same as 𝗏𝗏 as well. So those Temtems getting dangerously low. They do have a, 𝗬𝗏 buff to their name, so may be able to live off one 𝗏𝗏 no madness buff. However, if 𝗏𝗏 does indeed get a madness buff throughout this game, that is almost certain. And the other 2 Temtems, 𝗬𝗏, has really low special defense, so one madness buff Crystal Spike definitely takes it down. And of course the 𝗬𝗏, there's no way it will live one of those attacks too. So yeah, I think Doyko has to make sure 𝗏𝗏 does not get off a madness buff, or else it's gonna be GG perhaps for Tsubaki.
Absolutely. Right now, gambiting 2 Temtems, of course, is quite the investment. So Tsubaki is going to be putting his eggs in this basket. Volan will be swapped in here. So will the Kinu be swapped out. Doyko double swapping here. Tries to hold the fort. The Volan swapping in to just eat whatever comes through. And HKS does come in to shut down. Slice this Volan in half. That coat will not suffice, of course, with that doppelganger brooch as well. Getting rid of that. And the hook kick to follow through, or Crystal Bite is more than enough damage here to sustain. The 2-Vine goes red. And again, the problem still persists. The Kinu is not gonna like this. And Doyko now starting to feel the pain, starting to feel the fact that his team is on basically half HP for the entire time. Right now, although Tsubaki's out of stamina, he probably wouldn't mind OXing here, at least on the 𝗬𝗪𝗔, just to do as much damage as possible. This 2-Vine, if it drops to red, suddenly, again, 𝗏𝗏 can swap in, and enough C-Spikes will just shred everything. So, it's not trivial.
Yeah, even just a single C-Spike, if you find it at the right HP, will bring it down. But you're right, Tsubaki-chan has been doing so much offensive pressure, find himself with no stamina remaining, so it could be a double rest, but that could be a little bit dicey. 2-Vine doubling into either of these slots. 2-Vine 𝗬𝗪𝗔, something like a Crystal Bite CPG. I don't know if I'll be 100% on the 𝗬𝗪𝗔, but Volan certainly does go down. So that could be the move, but the bigger threat I want to say is this 𝗬𝗪𝗔, so you kind of want to take it down. If 𝗏𝗀𝗏 had a neutral Temtem to synergize with, maybe you could leave the 𝗬𝗪𝗔 alone, since that 𝗏𝗀𝗏 would really tear it apart with Quetzaleno. But there is no neutral 𝗏𝗏𝗏 to try, or neutral Temtem to try to pair that with, so it's just going to be doing normal speed throughout the entire match. And this is an aerobic Volan, so you kind of want to take it out before the second HKS. If Volan doesn't drop Volan doesn't drop this turn, or if Tsubaki saves it down the road, it's just going to be a crazy amount of damage again coming out from an HKS. And Kinu coming in for 2-Vine, so perhaps not able to one-shot anything here from this 𝗬𝗪𝗔.
Absolutely. Toxic Plume thrown down as well. This Kinu just trying to do as much as it can. Attack down is gigantic, especially on a 𝗬𝗪𝗔 who cannot heat up. Kinu low as well, and I mean, the story seems foretelling itself right now, right? Doyko currently, look at all his attempts, sub 50% HP. Even with these defenses, right, you only mitigate about, what, 33% of all damage, right? That's still not going to be enough. Definitely, especially if it's going to do at least, 30%, 35%. That extra bonus is not going to last very long, right? A stone wall can only hold you for so long. Sacrifice is thrown down, so all the eggs in this 𝗬𝗪𝗔 basket trying to survive. Of course, no scavenger procs here. 𝗏𝗏𝗏 is full HP. Sharp Stab to follow through does 8% damage, so mitigating so much there, but the trade is just not there. The attack minus is just feeling the pressure, and I'm worried. There is actually no way to stop this 𝗏𝗏𝗏 from madness buffing if it really wanted to, or just C-spiking straight through this 𝗏𝗏𝗏 right now.
Yeah, and Blue, correct me if I'm wrong, 𝗬𝗪𝗔 just uses Sharp Stab, right? On Tsubaki's side?
Yes. Tsubaki used Sharp Stab, so there is no max prio move here. For Tsubaki, Doyko used, I believe, Crystal Bite for that trade, so still has hooking available. If he all-ins the 𝗏𝗏𝗏 manages to kill it just by being very fast, then potentially you still have a ball game. But again, it's just too much. Crystal Spikes thrown down here to kill. But the 𝗏𝗏𝗏, that's it.
Wait a second.
Down the
oh.
The 𝗏𝗏𝗏 is too slow, and the scavenger buff procs, applying the heal, and the 2-Vine comes in. Hook kick still available on the 𝗬𝗪𝗏 and C-Spikes, and Doyko, it does not look like he has enough here.
That is right. Of course, one C-Spike, but 𝗧𝗵𝗵𝗶 is back online, but if 𝗬𝗚𝗚 wants to do that, it will be overexerting, most likely taking himself out on the same time. I believe Tsubaki-chan with the double gash did not overexert, so has that hook kick straight looking at 𝗬𝗏𝗏 right here. So Crystal Spike bringing that 𝗬𝗏𝗏 down to size, not just yet, 6% remaining.
It's just not enough damage. Crystal Bite does as much as possible, 20%, but it OXs the 𝗬𝗚𝗚. You just made your problem even worse. He healed all of the damage and dealt hook kick to finish it. And what do you know, Plus? What's he gonna do about it? Wins the game for Tsubaki-chan. With
that
the
is
double
right.
carry.
That is right. The 𝗬𝗚𝗚 combo winning it at the end for Tsubaki, but Tsubaki will be one game up, so he is at game point. One more, he moves on to the semifinals. Unless Doyko trying to bring it back all the way from the 8th seed. Is this a true underdog story?
For sure. I mean, right now, Doyko, if I was Doyko, perhaps banning the 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 here and then following up with the 𝗬𝗚𝗚 opening could be the play. But no, decides to ban the 𝗏𝗏𝗏, of course, just getting rid of that 𝗏𝗏𝗏. Perhaps thinking that was the main problem, but of course that just incites a double 𝗏𝗏𝗏 ban. I mean, classic, right? Nobody wants to fight against the 𝗏𝗏𝗏. It's one of the only remaining Ultra S tiers in the game, so getting rid of that. But still, Doyko has a lot to think about here. Of course, the size munch wasn't the main carry. All it did was incite enough damage that Doyko really could not counter it. Enough damage, following through into a sort of a 5v3 doesn't really matter, especially if everything's below 50% HP. So right now, Kinu opening, so keeping options well open.
Yeah.
Tsubaki, I'm not sure what he wants here.
Yeah, let's see. I mean, Doyko has the ability to pair it up with anything. He is on blue side, so the counter could be coming out. It depends on what Tsubaki is bringing, though. So 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏, it did get the ban the previous turn, so now we get to see 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏 here in game number 2. Who does he want to pair? I guess 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏 is trying to take down the likes of 𝗂𝘀𝗶𝗆, perhaps a bit of the Grumper with some Ice Stalactites or Water Stone or Water Jet in a couple turns. But Tsubaki trying to say, I dare you to put anything in the spot. I'm gonna be prepared for it. Maybe 𝗬𝗚𝗚 though, guys. Kinu 𝗬𝗚𝗚 seems like quite the threat. So we'll see.
I think that's what Tsubaki-chan's exactly thinking of right now. He's thinking, if I pick up anything but a 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, I allow a 𝗬𝗚𝗚 in with a potential no 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 to fight it back, right? Of course, his 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏 is going to be able to OX the 𝗬𝗚𝗚 following through, and there you go. Doyko just goes all in, baby. He goes in for the brute force opening. This is the equivalent of going 𝗬𝗚𝗚𝗏 Kinu in the opening and just being like, all right, we'll just play ball. So 𝗂𝘀𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 here for the side of Tsubaki.
That is right. So a good opening on both sides, maybe leaning towards that 𝗬𝗚𝗚𝗏, but man, we could never count out a water synergized water cannon. Those extra 2 ticks, no matter how bulky you are, will do a flat 25% in the next couple turns. So that has to be in Tsubaki's head or in Doyko's head as well. But as you said, Blue, the 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 does get taken out for Tsubaki's side, and Tsubaki reciprocating a little bit of that does eliminate the 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏 to his name. So 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏 eliminated opens the door for the size munch. So size munch is going to be a big threat in this game.
I wouldn't mind seeing Tsubaki open with a strangle, really. Is strangle no hold? I believe it's no hold.
Yeah, I believe.
Yeah, so you could potentially strangle 𝗬𝗚𝗚𝗏, just basically stop it from having a second turn, which would make perfect sense to me. Allows you to be able to play that second turn to your advantage. But we'll have to see how Tsubaki plays. Of course, he knows more than I do, and we'll see how he plays against this. Opening with something more mid-ranged, and Doyko going with the brute force cannon in the opening.
That is right. This is game number 2 of our quarterfinals here in our weekly 33. Kinu 𝗬𝗚𝗚𝗏 on the side of Doyko. We saw how impressive this start was. Got a little bit greedier with one of the earlier show-offs, perhaps learning from his mistakes. I mean, he still ended up winning that matchup, so maybe, maybe all calculated at the end of the day. We could leave it like that. Doyko is in top 8 cut for a reason. So we could keep it pretty straightforward. Owlr could go with the show off. However, I could see a bit of pressure from Doyko, or sorry, from Tsubaki-chan onto that Owlr. Let's see if he decides to double here.
𝗧𝗏𝗺 thrown down, and you may be right. Owlr taking 22% damage, outright Toxic Ink to follow, and the show off will come down here. So above 50%, not even threatened, and +1 attack is going to be a bit scary. And again, Tsubaki doesn't have a direct counter, and E-Storm or Thunder Strike should bring down one of these non-believers, shall we say. The Owlr going to slap some sense into one of these, Tim.
Yeah, and just like that, that additional Toxic Tick will bring it under 50%. So another double up following the extra Toxic Tick will bring Owlr down. However, we saw how impactful a Grumper was against the likes of a 𝗂𝘀𝗶𝗆. So Tsubaki-chan considering, do I need to swap out this 𝗂𝘀𝗆? Because if I leave it in and Grumper directs his attention onto this spot, it will go all the way down. So who can he swap into? Maybe 𝗧𝗵𝗶 feels okay. Tourney feels pretty good too. You get that water synergy from 𝗂𝗶𝗆 to its right. So I can see, I mean, everything almost feels okay. 𝗧𝗵𝗆 should come in to try to get some big uppercuts on Grumper. Tourney feels okay as well to try to get some WCLs going on Grumper too. However, what wants to eat a savage suplex right now from this Owlr? Not very much. So Tsubaki's considering very carefully. And the Grumper retreats. Wait a minute. This could have been an over. Oh, no. To definitely buff up the Owlr. This makes sense.
Yeah. Kinu coming in, doubling up all the eggs on the Owlr basket. 𝗧𝗏𝗺 again doing a lot of punishment. Toxic Ink to follow. Again, just slowly trying to chip damage. Savage suplex. The throwdown.
Ooh.
The 𝗂𝘀𝗆 disappears from the comebacker bonus as well. And the Owlr drops to 18% HP. But Revitalize is available for Doyko. The question is, will he be fast enough to accomplish this? And we'll have to see.
Yeah, and that is the power of the Owlr. But Tsubaki's done a really great job so far at trying to bring that Owlr down to size. One more attack away, a 𝗂𝗶𝗆's Toxic Ink followed by the additional 12.5% will end up the Owlr. The only thing messing that up is if Kinu wants to go for a Revitalize. Revitalizing that Owlr back up to about, it's 25%, right? 25% Revitalize.
Yes.
Kinu usually able to be pretty speedy, so could be able to outspeed. Maybe something like 𝗀𝗏𝗆 is the only turn one thing that would be faster than a Kinu at this position right here. So maybe we will be seeing a 𝗀𝗏𝗆 come out. However, I don't think a single WCL with a +2 Owlr at 18%. I think that's too much of a tall task for that 𝗀𝗏𝗆, but we'll see. It could do 18, but I don't think so.
This is such a struggle here for Tsubaki. I won't say that I like the double up Toxic Ink of the Owlr. Again, just trying to do as much dip damage as possible, but letting the Kinu swap in for a second time with no sort of counter right now. Again, as you mentioned, Revitalize is open. This feels a bit rough. There's not really a way to stop it. I mean, WCL maybe could do 18% damage, but most likely it'll do like 12% damage, and then Revitalize comes through, and then Toxic Ink follows, and then maybe you can get the Owlr killed. But again, that's already allowing for so much damage. 𝗂𝗏𝗆 follow through or a clinch follow through is going to hit like a truck. On top of that, you could still potentially have a hibernate on Doyko. So there's a lot of ways this Owlr could stay alive. Maybe hibernate, maybe a little bit too out there. But regardless, right, the Owlr could do a lot here.
Yeah, if Doyko also wanted to, he could retreat the Owlr, but Tsubaki going for it. So WCL Owlr hanging on by the hair on his chin. And Revitalize does go off.
Oh, Toxic Ink will guarantee Owlr kill, but this is why the punch is here. 𝗂𝗏𝗆 does smack down the 𝗀𝗏𝗆, does 52% damage, and the Toxic Ticks. There's no way Owlr survives unless it has Hibernate, but I don't think 𝗀𝗏𝗆 will let it Hibernate at all here.
Yeah, so did get indeed a lot of damage, over 50% damage on the 𝗀𝗏𝗆, so not too bad right there. However, all is said and done, 𝗧𝗫 a single toxic tick away. There is nothing, as you said, Blue. Kinu already used his Revitalize, so nothing in the world right here, right now is able to save the 𝗧𝗫 from going down. And unfortunately for the side of Doyko, 𝗧𝗫's the slowest Temtem on the board, so not going to be able to get off anything. And yeah, you want to go down swinging, so it's just probably going to eat some attacks here, almost wanting to do something, but Tsubaki, I'm pretty sure, won't be letting him here.
WCL to get thrown down here onto the 𝗧𝗫 spot, just ensuring that kill. Of course, with Sweatband, the Tourney should be fine, especially with a Revitalize still available. Toxic Ink to be punishing this 𝗧𝗫, of course, resistant. And Snare, actually, that's big. Snare to remove the 𝗂𝗶𝗴's item. I actually don't know what the 𝗂𝗶𝗴's item was. Maybe perhaps a code? Perhaps we haven't seen that yet from Tsubaki, so maybe not the biggest loss in the world, actually.
Yeah, we haven't seen it. Could be something like energy drink, something like code. We'll find out if it does come to it, but here comes the Fire 𝗶𝗀𝗆 trying to really pressure out the 𝗧𝗵. I do believe one 𝗧𝗏𝗺 from 48%. I do think it will be taking the 𝗧𝗵 all the way down. So what does Tsubaki have as a potential swap?
Bush,
it's only the 𝗧𝗫 and it's only the 𝗧𝗲, but you're right, Blue. You could get a Bush here. It's online, of course.
Yeah, potentially a Bush, of course, still could hold, could potentially hold the 𝗧𝗏 alive, depending on how Doyko runs this. I mean, he could potentially just sharp stabs, pop the Bush like that, and then go in for the 𝗧𝗫 after the 𝗧𝗏 kill. That could potentially be the play. I'm actually thinking perhaps swap in this. No, the only
thing, you know, that would actually be a really good play. However, I think 𝗧𝗫 is gonna outspeed the 𝗧𝗏 push, so it would still go popping it. But no, Tsubaki on the offensive, looking to sacrifice the 𝗧𝗏. Just want to do over 50% damage on the 𝗂𝗀𝗆. Crystal Bite coming out to the 𝗂𝗶𝗆. Let's see.
Yeah, the toxic skin as well. 𝗧𝗏𝗺, they smacked the 𝗂𝗶𝗆. He thought the 𝗧𝗏 would swap out for sure, but that allows for the big punish. The 𝗂𝗀𝗆 is dead. That is such a big sacrifice there. Tsubaki reading, or perhaps Doyko misreading Tsubaki's next play.
Yeah, maybe a bit of a overthinking there, because you had the kill on 𝗧𝗏. I guess the idea for Doyko was leave the 𝗧𝗏. If the 𝗧𝗏 wants to do anything, he's gonna overexert, so it's gonna be a free turn for me the next turn. However, forgetting that a double up on the 𝗂𝗀𝗆 will bring it down, and now not too much answers. This 𝗧𝗏 is gonna try to leave that heavy lifting on this 𝗧𝗫. Maybe something like a Crystal Bite could close it out, but it might be more than one attack though. So I don't know, maybe that 𝗧𝗏𝗺 did indeed have to direct on the 𝗧𝗏. But Doyko, finding himself a bit behind, wanted to go for the riskier play, thinking that 𝗂𝗶𝗆 would swap into 𝗧𝗫, which is maybe what that 𝗧𝗏𝗺 on the 𝗂𝗶𝗆 was about there.
Yeah, this is my spider senses are telling me we're gonna see a size match 𝗧𝗫 versus the world. And right now, the only thing Doyko can do is stem the bleeding by only killing one of the Tems here. Right? If you only kill 𝗧𝗏, then you don't get the double trouble until like much later, or for the most part, or you can potentially just keep trying to sustain. Of course, 𝗧𝗫 can't buff himself anymore, so really all it can do is dish out some damage here.
Yeah, so let's see. 𝗧𝗏 did indeed overexert, and I believe 𝗂𝗶𝗆 did too. So Tsubaki not going to be able to do anything this turn, so maybe a free kind of setup turn for Doyko. You got Revitalize on the 𝗧𝗫. You could Stonewall if you have it onto 𝗧𝗫, because at this point, 𝗧𝗫 might be the only win condition for Doyko. With that Size Munch in the back, Size Munch really effective into 𝗧𝗫, really effective into the Grumper. It's gonna be tough. That Size Munch, if there wasn't a Size Munch, this would be a close game, but with that Size Munch leaning it towards the favor of Tsubaki for the time being.
Yeah, swapping in the 𝗧𝗫 will be coming in here, the 𝗂𝗶𝗆 as well. So the double trouble is on the board. Size Munch 𝗬𝗧𝗇 will be the play. Hook kick to follow through. 𝗬𝗧𝗇 will be taking that just fine. Beta Burst, though, this is important. If it hits the 𝗧𝗵𝗶, it'll be big, but no, it goes on the 𝗬𝗧𝗇. So, Tsubaki-chan understanding that if the Tourney for the 𝗬𝗵𝗶 went down individually, then you will not have both 𝗧𝗵𝗶 and 𝗬𝗧𝗇 on the same time. It'll be a bit more of a hassle. But now, Crystal Bite is available. You have Rock Bottom to scare off the 𝗬𝗧𝗇. It just feels like a nightmare right now.
Yeah, as you said, 𝗧𝗵𝗶 is online. I think at 66% will go all the way down. So that's something Doyko is considering. However, Grumper in the back line can't really eat it all that better, but the melee synergized 𝗧𝗵𝗶.
Oh, Rock Bottom to throw down. The 𝗬𝗧𝗇 survives. That is gigantic. The C-Bite as well to follow. The 𝗬𝗧𝗇 lives as well. The trade isn't going to be there, but the 𝗬𝗧𝗇 will finally get picked off. So the damage is massive, but the 𝗧𝗵𝗶 is completely unscathed still. And the 𝗬𝗏 swapping could potentially be curtains for the Kinu.
Yeah, that is right. And Kinu, the one can be doing the most effective damage onto 𝗧𝗵𝗶. So that is exactly what Tsubaki has in mind. Bring out the 𝗬𝗏, pressure out that Kinu. And now, I believe 𝗬𝗵𝗃 is online. He came in on the swap. He was on the turn for one turn. So does have 𝗬𝗵𝗃 online. Can something... Oh, 𝗬𝗵𝗃 should be able to outspeed a 𝗬𝗧𝗇. 𝗬𝗧𝗇, if it wants to do anything, has to go for a sharp stab. And that won't be killing the 𝗬𝗏. And neither would a Kinu Beta Burst, so things are looking rough. It looks like Tsubaki has the momentum going into this turn 8.
For sure here. Sharp Sap to follow through. The 𝗬𝗏 trying to kill it off with a Beta Burst as well to follow. Toxic Skin and OX does kill off the 𝗬𝗧𝗇. 𝗬𝗃 to follow, damaging the Kinu as well here. The Kinu drops low, but the Beta Burst will be major because Mud Shower is also a pretty strong way to deal with the Grumper. But with that Kinu down, it is Grumper versus 3 Tems, and 𝗧𝗵𝗶, he still has uppercut.
That is right. And the lonely Grumper, a really impressive Temtem. But when you have a 𝗧𝗵𝗶, heat up or not, 2 uppercuts, actually an uppercut followed by a water jet perhaps. We all know how slow Grumper can be. He's tech to be slower than Nagai. So here we are. Uppercut, 50%. Oh, but no, faster than the 𝗬𝗏.
It's a fast Grumper. It is quite the fast 𝗬𝗏, but fast Grumper. But one punch did 54% damage, and coincidentally, the Grumper is healed up to 54% HP. This punch is going to be obliterating the Grumper, and unfortunately, Tsubaki may be taking this one. WCL even goes first here just to set up the hook, and doesn't even let the sinker through. Grumper will be taken out by the 𝗀𝗎, and Tsubaki gets a clean 2-0 against Doyko. Put up unfortunate stuff, very close, but God spreads, God TV spreads, closing it out in the end there.
That is true. And hey, Blue, I said it was the end of our quarterfinals, but I spoke too soon. It looks like Ricky Tan and Laion, they're going into the very last game of their match set. It's game number 3, baby. Laion versus Ricky Tan. One of these will be moving forward to verse the winner that we just saw which was 𝗬𝗵𝗃. So is it going to be Ricky Tan versus 𝗬𝗵𝗃? Is it Laion versus 𝗬𝗵𝗃? Time will tell, and we're gonna find out here very shortly, as it's the last and final game. I believe the last and final game of our quarterfinals.
Laion, of course, with the 𝗬𝗵𝗃 versus the 𝗬𝗃𝗃. New school versus old school in the openings here, and in the back line as well. The 𝗧𝗵𝗶 picked up, and Laion probably considering both options. Literally both options are fine here for Laion. Raiken, yes, he has 𝗧𝗵𝗶 issues, but with Wolfie still available, it's not really too big. And it's not like, obviously the Raiken will probably do more damage than the 𝗬𝗃 in this sort of scenario, especially with all the benefits. Quetzaleno hits like a truck, so it's not an easy decision for sure. So Raiken will be picked up as the last pick, and we'll see how what they can bring to the table in the final game.
Even though Ricky Tan did indeed have the 𝗧𝗵𝗶𝗶, Laion still indeed picking up the Riken, so we'll see what he has in mind. But here it goes, 𝗬𝗧𝗍, the Scunch. Can he be the hero 𝗧𝗵𝗍 needs to close it out onto Laion? Or is Laion, I believe, a previous champion in himself, bringing things in his favor? I mean, this is a god start for both of these Tamers. 𝗧𝗵𝗍 has a good P-Jab, Noxious Bomb onto the 𝗬𝗏, P-Jab, Feather Galling onto Volan, whichever one he finds more threatening, which may be the 𝗬𝗏. I feel like 𝗬𝗏 a bit more impactful throughout this match. And so does Laion, a Water Cannon synergize going into perhaps... Oh, but wait a minute, the Chamomile. That's such a good item on Scunch, especially in the opening turns. So no toxic kicks.
Laion, I mean, the classic opening countered by the Chamomile, of course. Unfortunately, there's nothing really that can stop this. A very, very solid anti-strat here. Feather Galling to throw down. Does 20% damage. Not terrible, of course. Water Cannon to follow as well. Doing a lot of chip damage. Ooh, the Toxic Sticks would have been big there. But
huge.
no cigar. Perfect jab to punch in. And now the question is, does this Volarend have Doppelganger's Brooch?
Wow.
Because this Volarend so much damage. Aerobic Volarend doing its thing, and it does have Doppelganger's Brooch, so that's why it was doing so much damage. And we have the speed battle. Unfortunately, the arrow is in favor of Ricky Tan, so the HKS quick draw will go his favor.
That is right, HKS, or if one Tamer wants to be a bit more risky, maybe just a FG, conserve the hyperkinetic for the +2 speed. However, you're right though, Blue. If Laion goes for a HKS and Ricky Tan doesn't, then that Volarend will be going first, doing big amount of damage on any Temtem he chooses. It looks like he's gunning down the Scunch here, which makes sense. Really effective into 𝗏𝗏, really effective into 𝗏𝗏, and with P-Jab always being a thing, it has the potential to really change the tides of battle, regardless of what Tem is staring him down. Laion does bring out the Volarend. In comes the 𝗏𝗏, anticipating the Scunch to leave here.
𝗏𝗏 swapped in as well here for the side of Ricky Tan. Aquatic Whirlwind to throw down does slightly above below 40%, 50% damage. And the FG trade does decently well, but the speed up is important here. Also, what's important here is that the 𝗏𝗏 will actually hit the Volarend like it had Madness buff. Right now, -2 special defense is not going to be fun to hit. Or to get hit, rather.
Yeah, and that's very true. However, the big question here, does the 𝗏𝗏 get off an attack? Because everything is online for all these Temtems. So a +2 speed, HKS gunning into this spot, plus a tornado if the 𝗏𝗏 is able to go first, if it's somewhere in the neighborhood of a max speed 𝗏𝗏. If those two go off first, I do believe 𝗏𝗏 goes down, and almost anything in that spot goes down, but no Ricky Tan going with the Noxious Bomb onto the 𝗬𝗏. Interesting.
Crystal Spikes does get thrown down, trying to survive it, does a lot of damage, but the tornado killing off the 𝗬𝗏 instead of the 𝗏𝗏 could have been risky, especially if a Madness buff were to follow through. But removing the 𝗬𝗏 from the equation, at least getting that kill is perfectly fine here.
Yeah, it does allow that Monkey Howl, the 𝗧𝗵𝗶𝗶 in the back, be able to live a lot easier in this game number 3. However, I think Ricky Tan 100% thought the 𝗏𝗏 was going to be swapping out. That's why he directed all that attention onto the 𝗬𝗏. But the only thing that favors him a bit though, or that isn't as problematic, is 𝗏𝗏 didn't go for a Madness buff. He instead went for a Crystal Spike. So one more Crystal Spike on that Volarend will close it out. That -2 special defense is way too much for that 𝗏𝗏, or way too much for the Volarend to handle that 𝗏𝗏.
Riken does get swapped in here with the 𝗏𝗏 as expected. Now, this is the perfect time to swap in the 𝗧𝗵𝗶𝗶 actually with the Scunch, as there is no exactly perfect, there's no perfect amount of damage here to suffice. And right now, obviously, Ricky Tan probably recognizes that this isn't the best board for 𝗏𝗏 and Volarend. So a double swap is probably coming here. So 𝗧𝗵𝗶𝗶 does come through. for the Volerant spot. And the 𝗬𝗁𝗀 stays in, so the C spikes directed into the side punch, gonna be eaten perfectly fine. 𝗬𝗀𝗺 does smack this 𝗬𝗁𝗀, does not kill. 𝗧𝗵𝗵 to shut down the Laion. Instead of securing the kill on the 𝗬𝗁𝗀, he is punished because he wanted that prideful buff.
That is right, and that would have been a big prideful buff indeed. But no, the 𝗬𝗁𝗀 holding off by the smallest of margins, probably a single HP. You can't even see it. You close your eyes, open your eyes, you can't even see what HP remaining. However, we do got two melee Temtems on the back line for Little Asia, so a melee synergized 𝗧𝗵𝗶 most likely able to come out here. Laion does have a team elusive 𝗬𝗶𝗴 though, cheekily try to squeeze it in there to prevent damage on a single Temtem, but someone is gonna take it. I mean, maybe if you 100% read the 𝗧𝗵𝗶, I feel like Volerant and 𝗬𝗶𝗴 not too bad of a swap. But I think you still had the HKS on the Volerant, so I know Laion wanted to save the Volerant for perhaps that HKS just to get the damage. So a tricky turn for Laion as this 𝗧𝗵𝗃 applies so much pressure onto Laion's current board. And also, 𝗬𝗁𝗀 with the final tornado, I don't believe it was able to outspeed the 𝗬𝗁𝗀 as we saw in the previous turn. So if 𝗬𝗁𝗀 just wants to comfortably go Crystal Spike or Crystal Dust into the 𝗬𝗁𝗀 spot, that doesn't feel too bad. Because I believe 𝗬𝗁𝗀 was indeed slower as we saw the 𝗬𝗁𝗀 connect into Volerant after or before the tornado.
Scunch does get swapped in here with the 𝗧𝗵𝗃.
Oh, and everything stays in blue.
Bottom is thrown down and it does not kill either of them. They both survive at the skin of their teeth. The C spike will secure the kill on the Scunch rather, just securing their HP pool, survival of the fittest. But the fittest is the 𝗧𝗵𝗃 right now.
That is right, and he had to go for a double kill. Was way too juicy to pass up, so Ricky Tan just did exactly that, went for it, send it, but the send was just not enough. 𝗬𝗁𝗀 surviving and getting the scavenger proc off that Scunch going down. But out comes the Volerant, and I can't remember if HKS is online. Actually, I'm thinking back now, I believe HKS is 100% online. With the time we were thinking HKS was coming out, he did a Noxious Bomb on the 𝗂𝗏, so I do think a HKS is for, I would say 90% online if I'm remembering things right. So that should be able to outspeed everything on the current board, especially because it's at +2 speed. Can it kill the 𝗬𝗁𝗀? I say yes. Can it kill the Laion? 1000%. So this is a tricky turn. I think Ricky Tan was anticipating letting one of his Tems go, obviously the Scunch. So with this Volerant coming in for free, applying a lot of pressure back onto Laion, maybe so much so that it could be a free heat up for the monkey. Honestly, it feels a bit like a free heat up, because what is Laion gonna do damage wise into the 𝗧𝗵𝗃, right?
You're right, you can't swap in the 𝗬𝗃, it's too risky. If he decides to uppercut either of these spots, and the 𝗬𝗃 eats it, suddenly you have no counter anymore. And 𝗬𝗃's not even a guaranteed kill on the 𝗧𝗵𝗃 yet. I believe it does on average like 70%, like 65% damage. So he's not even in that range where 𝗬𝗃 can outright kill him. So still very confident 𝗧𝗵𝗃. The Laion is guaranteed dead here. Confident that the uppercut should shut down the 𝗬𝗁𝗀, even with that scavenger buff. So
wait,
we'll see.
This might have been a bit of a misplay. Oh no!
It lives. The 𝗬𝗁𝗀 heals off of this Volerant as well. So the 𝗬𝗁𝗀 is okay with this, actually. He doesn't mind this at all. He's okay with this.
Yeah, he did overexert, so maybe Ricky Tan still had it all under control. However, maybe Dimmac on the Laion, since it was slower than the Volerant, and then I don't know. I think Ricky wanted to save the HKS. However, Volerant at +2 speed previously, +3 speed as it went down, it didn't even get off one HKS this entire match. So a lot of damage not applying onto Laion. We'll see if that bites Ricky Tan in the butt, because that was a big amount of damage not able to go off. He just went with a simple FG. And that 𝗏𝗏 staying put. I think what Ricky Tan was thinking, he thought 1000% 𝗏𝗏 was going to swap out. It didn't want to stay on the board against the HKS, but sometimes the craziest play is sometimes the right play, and keeping that 𝗏𝗏 in to close it out on the Voldaren ended up being the right play for Laion.
Absolutely, and it's not that simple now. Laion has the faster Voldaren. Voldaren should always go for first here, especially if it is aerobic. The HKS will definitely do a lot of damage. It is just up to Laion's math, right? How good is his mathematics? Does the Voldaren, you know, which one do you want to target down, right? For the most part, do you want to target down the 𝗬𝗧𝗏? Do you want to target down the 𝗧𝗵𝗶𝗶 for this rock bottom? So we'll have to see.
I think the 𝗬𝗧𝗏, since 𝗬𝗏 is so effective into the monkey, of course it has double screen, so maybe lives 1 plague, but for sure 2 plagues, it should be able to close it out. So maybe a big HKS, and not too big. We say big, but it's only at +1 speed, so it might not be the biggest one, maybe in the neighborhood of 40 to 50% at most, perhaps a bit more, we'll see. But yeah, I think if you're going into this 𝗬𝗏𝗏 has nothing online as it's hitting the board for the first time, so it only has double gash. But more importantly, the 𝗧𝗵𝗶𝗃 wreck, that is online, and 𝗬𝗏𝗏 is indeed a melee temp to his left. So that should be able to outspeed this 𝗏𝗏, but definitely not the Voldaren. So I think Ricky Tan has this one in the bag. He might have needed that 𝗬𝗏 this turn.
HKS does get thrown down the gauntlet. The 𝗧𝗵𝗶𝗃 does not die, and it is more than healthy enough to rock bottom. Double gash to follow through. Voldaren does get eliminated. The 𝗏𝗏 stays in. This boy is so brave. The uppercut comes through, does finally kill it off. And now it's 𝗬𝗏 versus 2 melee temps. There's only one way this can go, and it's not pretty.
I agree with you 100%, Blue. Whether you take care of 𝗧𝗵𝗶𝗃, 𝗬𝗏𝗏 has a hook kick online. Hook kick and double gash before a DV able to go off is going to be the name of the game. So 𝗬𝗏𝗏 should have a hook kick here. We get to see it. So 100 all the way to 11. So 89%. If that was a hook kick, a single double gash will close it out. I even think 𝗏𝗏𝗏 has a tornado if it's able to outspeed.
Sharp stabs?
That's true.
Sharp stabs as well. Should finish it off. The 𝗬𝗏 doesn't get a chance to move as the kill is secured for the side of Ricky Tan. Takes that win.